Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Kiyan.
This is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast that's a podcast. Because this week we watched Underworld,
Written by Bob Baker and Dave Martin.
directed by Norman Stewart.
And aired in January of 1978.
Yeah, we have a really bland introduction for, fittingly, a very bland and boring serial.
Yep.
Honestly, I didn't think it was that bad, except for the fact that it was just horrendously boring, and it felt like nothing happened, even though when stuff did happen. Kind of, I guess, the opposite of last week, where not much happened last week, but it felt like a lot of things happened. This week, it felt like not much happened, but things did happen, so...
Right, well, this serial did a horrible job of keeping my attention, and is probably one of the worst serials, in my opinion, since Space Pirates.
Well, I guess we're going to get more into this at the end when we've explained the whole serial, but I mean, it's probably one of the worst Fourth Doctor serials, but I don't think it's anywhere near the level of Space Pirates or Fury from the Deep or The Massacre or Monster of Peloton.
Okay, it's not near Massacre level, but it's up there with Space Pirates and Fury, I'd say, but...
And
anyway.
Monster of Peloton?
I didn't think Monster of Peloton was as bad as, like, this in Space Pirates. It was pretty bad, but...
Well, I guess we'll talk more about that at the end when we can reference what happens in the plot. So, for the first time in a while, actually, it starts with the Doctor and Leela and K9 on the TARDIS. The Doctor's painting in the back room, I guess.
Right, and the dialogue and banter here between the main trio, I guess, was probably one of the better parts of this serial.
It's all downhill. Yeah.
You know, like other serials with Leela and K9, the banter is pretty funny and enjoyable. Right. And I don't know, I thought I wrote in my notes, poor K9 getting told to shut up.
He's a robotic dog.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have feelings, but still.
So the time rotor stops moving. Leela's kind of pushing buttons. I think it was implied, or well, heavily implied actually, a few weeks ago that Leela can pilot the TARDIS, so I guess she's kind of taking them somewhere, and then all of a sudden it stops, and Leela's like, Doctor!
Wasn't it implied that she just messes around with the controls and somehow gets them places?
Maybe. I'm talking about very first serial of the season, The Invisible Enemy, with K9, where the Doctor needs to get to that institute, and they go into the TARDIS, and Leela just hops them over to the institute, like off screen.
Yeah, I guess
just
that's a good point.
Heavily implying that Leela can just pilot the TARDIS. So the Doctor comes running in, he's like, what happened? She's like, well, it stopped. He's like, what do you mean it stopped? Turns out they're like at the edge of the universe. I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, this is where things started getting vague.
I wasn't quite sure what the Doctor meant by this.
Well, if they are at the end of the universe, it's really underwhelming because they stumble out into what looks like a back closet.
Well, so there's nothing there, and they start to get sucked into this wormhole, and K9's like, we're not alone, and then the Doctor's like, what? And he's like, there's another ship here, I can detect a beacon, which obviously means there's another ship here, and the Doctor's like, well, what's the nearest escape coordinates? And K9 says them, and the Doctor's like, oh, those are the coordinates of the ship, and he's like, affirmative. So they beam into the ship, well, they materialize in the ship, and walk out into the back closet.
And the Doctor has some sort of revelation here when he picks up a little model of a Minion ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, based on the fact that their name is the Minions, I thought it was, actually a ship and they were just mini. But no, it's just a model.
Okay.
And then he sort of explains the backstory of the Minions, also kind of vaguely, and...
Yeah, you kind of have to piece together the backstory of the Minions throughout the serial, which was the only part I liked about this serial, besides the banter between Dr. Leela and K9, which continues for the whole serial when they're together, I might add.
Yeah, which... whatever.
So they kind of walk out into the room, they meet some guys, turns out the ship is called the L1C, R1C. Sorry, R1C.
Something. Well, the Doctor explains to Leela, actually in K9, that the ship is at least 100,000 years old. I think he says that when they're in the little room.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of funny. The Doctor says, this ship is at least 100,000 years old, and K9 sort of agrees or says, that's what my memory banks also indicate. And Layla's like, Leela's like, yeah, me too. And I'm like,
So they walk out, and Leela, as is, I guess, just her thing now, decides to threaten the first person she sees.
Yep. But they pacify her with their pacification guns.
Yeah, and then the Doctor's like, whoa, we come in peace. We just kind of got stuck here, and we want to know what's going on. And the head of the ship, Jackson, explains
not Jason, Jackson.
Important distinction there. Jackson explains that they've been wandering for 100,000 years and that they constantly regenerate, and he's like, you don't know what that feels like. And the Doctor's like, yeah, it does. I've done it 2 or 3 times now.
Yeah, but the Minions here have actually done it countless times. I think they have a whole room dedicated to it, and one of their members actually regenerates here.
Yeah, but I think they just retain the same body and face, unlike the Doctor, who gets a whole new one.
Yeah. I guess this is what's left of their crew, because it seems only to be a couple people.
It's like 5 of them, I think. 4 of them.
There's the leader, Jackson, and
there's the lady first officer.
Yeah, and there's that guy who like kind of goes rogue and wants to do his own thing.
And then there's Henrik, who gets captured. Wow, such distinct characters. Might be why it was so boring.
These characters are just really bland.
So Jackson also explains that while they can survive for 100,000 years, the ship turns out cannot. And
great idea, guys.
Falling apart.
You have a lifespan of over 100,000 years, but you don't design your spaceship that you used to get off your dying planet to last that long. Whatever.
Well, I don't think they expected to have to be searching for 100,000 years, because it's also revealed that they're searching for, I guess, in the Anthony Reid trademark info dump, it's also revealed that they're searching for the race banks, that it basically contained the entire genetic information of their race, which was on the other ship that they sent out, the P7E.
Right. And
one wonders why they didn't put copies of the race banks on both ships in case one got lost. This seems like they have remarkable faith in the fact that the P7E won't just go missing. Which, spoiler, it does.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like they really thought out this plan, like, at all. So, was it ever explained why their planet was destroyed or whatever? Or
I think they just said they went to war with each other and destroyed their own planet.
Wow, they're dumber than us.
Well, I guess I'm just going to explain this now, but when you piece together the entire history of the Minions, it's basically revealed that the Time Lords gave them technology, because the Oracle is a Time Lord technology, and then they basically accepted the Time Lord technology and then used it to destroy each other.
Right, there was that whole actual subplot with the Doctor saying that they revere the Time Lords as gods. He actually says that in the beginning. Before I zoned out. Trust me, it might sound interesting from what we've described so far, but trust me, it goes downhill fast.
Well, that was my issue with this serial. The plot, setup is kind of interesting, and then it's just really boring and poorly executed. But anyway, so they find a wormhole, I guess. So at the end of the universe, the only things at the end of the universe are the R1C and this wormhole thing. And they get sucked in because they don't have the thrust to get out until the end of the serial somehow.
When they've added tons of weight, might I add.
More weight,
oh,
Giles Corey. So they get sucked in, and all of a sudden all these rocks start getting attached to the ship, because apparently the ship is the biggest thing in the wormhole, and that means that it has the most gravity.
Or something.
Just neglect to mention that I don't think that's how that works, but
either way, they somehow start attracting a bunch of rocks and debris, and Jackson's like, oh no, we didn't account for this, and the Doctor's like, wow.
That's exactly what happened. It's like, wow, how did you not? And then the doctor's like, well, I guess we can use the laser on the ship to try cut our way out. And K9's like, well, they find out that the rocks are getting attached to the ship because K9's like current hull width 75 meters. And Jackson's like, what? The hull's only 3 meters wide.
So yeah, that's pretty bad.
They
that's
use the
where
laser.
one ends, I guess.
Yeah, one ends with the laser starting to cut through their own hull. I'm like, oh no! But then in episode 2, for just some reason it works, and they get out.
And
It's the best explanation I can give you.
yeah.
Yeah, they get out and they find another rock planet, and Jackson's like, oh, a planet. And the doctor's like, no. What happened was the P7E must have come in here and it must have got turned into a planet because they're detecting the P7E's, I guess, responder signal in the planet.
Yeah, something like that.
So they're like, oh, okay. The doctor's like, well, I guess they got turned into a planet and didn't get out like we did because we're smart.
Sucks for them. So they head down onto this planet, and before they do that, we actually see some slaves getting mistreated.
Yeah, and then when they land on the planet, they accidentally cause a cave-in, which kills some of them.
Yeah.
So whoops.
What did they call it? A Skyfall? Not the James Bond film, but they call it
Something like
They
that.
did call it that, I think.
Now that I actually think about it, why did all the rocks get attracted to the R1C when there was just that planet that they could have gotten attracted to, just hanging out in the wormhole?
Well, you got me. Like everything from here on out makes absolutely no sense.
Except the doctor's actions, which are just him trying to save everyone and everyone else being like, nah, we're good.
Hey, well, the overlords are, understandably like that because, I don't know, they're the overlords. They weren't called the overlords. I just
Perfect.
never actually learned their name, so I just called them the overlords.
I think they're the seers.
The seers.
Yeah, I think so. It's the Oracle, and then there's the Oracle's guard, which I guess are the seers. They're like the upper caste, and then there's the Trogs, who are the slaves. So I guess they're the lower caste.
Yeah. So, yeah, the seers are basically working the Trogs to death in some sort of mining facility. The rest of the serial mainly takes place in these bland, dull caves, might I add.
Which were actually shot in a studio using CSO. So basically what happened was, because next week's a 6-episode serial, and by this point in the season they're like, shoot, we're kind of running out of budget. So they basically shoved almost all of the budget to next week and basically just did this entire serial on the stage. But all credit to them, it actually looks pretty impressive. It's actually kind of convincing that they're running through caves.
It's pretty obvious that it's all green screen or whatever the equivalent that they used is.
I mean, yeah, once you know, yeah, you can easily notice, but they did a good job of making it so that if they're like running up steps or something, that the cave image looks like it has steps where they run up, so it's at least sort of convincing.
I guess. I still didn't like it. I mean, not due to the fact that it was shot in studio. I mean, even if they actually went on location to caves, I still wouldn't like it because the entire thing takes place in these cave systems.
No,
but,
yeah, it's pretty boring.
But the ship, both ships, because they actually make it to the core of the P, whatever it's called.
P7E.
P7E. The control rooms looked all right. Not great, but all right.
Yeah, no, I was
Nice
just
little
saying it
color
was
schemes there.
just impressive CSO tech, specifically for 78, 77. I mean, and even today, I mean, it's kind of impressive. Just the fact that they took a lot of care to make it look like there's levels within the cave images and that it's almost convincing.
I guess I can understand that. Just wish it was done in a more interesting serial where I could have gotten into it a little more.
Right. Oh, well. Yeah, so the Doctor, Leela, and K9, while they're told to stay in the ship, because K9, we forgot to mention K9's actually been plugged into the ship, and he's currently controlling it somehow.
Something like that.
And Jackson and his crew are going out to go look for the P70 in the race banks, and they tell the Doctor and Leela to stay behind, and they stay behind for all of 10 seconds, and then they follow them out.
As per usual.
Yeah, as expected.
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of roam around the caves for a while.
Yeah, what even happened in the rest
They
of
just
2?
roam around the caves for a while.
Well,
We actually don't even see Jackson and Co. for a while now. The Doctor runs into a trog called Idis.
Edis?
I don't know. Whose father has tried to revolt against the Seers and has been captured and is going to be sacrificed to the Sky Gods, aka the Time Lords. But the Doctor's not going to have any of that. But first they got to get away from the Seers that are now chasing them for some reason. Don't know why.
Maybe because they stopped working for half a second. I don't know. But they need to get to the bottom of the Tree of Life, which is actually just the core of the ship. He has this whole schematic. I don't know why he has it. I guess maybe he stole it or something, but he has this whole schematic of the ship, and he calls it the Tree of Life because I guess it kind of looks like a tree.
Kind of, yeah.
Vaguely.
But before that happens, they're chased by some Seers at the end of episode 2, and they kind of hop under a tarp and hide, and when the Seers walk into the room, they look around, they're like, well, no one's here. Guess we'll just gas the rooms. Wrote down a note like Star Wars Stormtrooper level of ignorance. That scene in New Hope where they just knock on the door, like, oh, it's locked. Droids aren't in here. Let's move on.
Meanwhile, Henrik or whatever his name is gone off on his own.
Yeah, he gets captured. Spoiler.
He's taken actually to the control room.
Yeah.
Which is where the Doctor is trying to get to.
Yeah, episode 2 ends with them being all gassed, and episode 3 begins with them opening the door to the control room and all the gas spilling in, and I guess either killing or knocking out 2 guards. I had them as dying, and then the controls been like, gas! Turn it off! Turn it off!
Well, it would just be 2 more dead bodies on this already massive sea of corpses that we're about to get to. Because then there's a sort of firefight. They have these shield gun things. Looked kind of interesting, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, not only can they shoot, they can reflect bolts of energy, I guess.
I guess come to think of it, the special effect for the laser blast looked kind of cool, I guess. Maybe a little bit more well done than what we'd usually see on this show. I don't know.
Well, the most impressive special effect for this serial was the explosion at the end.
I guess there was the same effect, the explosion effect, like midway through the serial when they shot through the.
Yeah.
They actually shot through a cave wall twice. So.
So the firefight starts because the Doctor and Idis have found the sort of. They found the center of the planet, which has no gravity. And Leela's like, "But how are we gonna move in there?" And the Doctor's like, "Just push." And they all just push against nothing. I might add, that is actually not how gravity works. But can't just push against nothing. It's just it's not.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure none of the quote-unquote science in this serial was actually, real. Not that any of it on this show ever is. Rarely is it, actually, so whatever. It reminded me of that scene in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the old one, where they're in that, like, bubble corridor or tube or whatever it is, and they start floating. I don't know.
Yeah, I've only actually seen bits and pieces of that version. But I've seen the Johnny Depp version twice.
You mean the terrible one?
Yeah, the lower caliber one.
Oh man, I was so mad at the ending of that when I watched it as a kid because they changed the ending from the book.
They changed a lot of things from the book in that one. They added that whole subplot with Willy Wonka's dad, played by Christopher Lee.
Oh man, Christopher Lee.
That scene that I didn't understand until the second time I watched it.
Yeah, we're getting way off topic here, but yeah, Christopher Lee, everyone.
I know a lot of facts about Christopher Lee, but I'll save those for another day.
Yeah.
I'll save those for the Lord of the Rings episode of Triple Play.
Okay.
So, they go down the gravity tube and they kind of bust into the sacrificial chamber where Idis's dad is being sacrificed. And that's when they start the revolt, because they, like, move this lamp that's gonna kill him, I guess. It's not very well explained how this execution works, but for the second serial in a row, the Doctor interrupts an execution.
Wasn't it like some sort of mechanism that would just drop a knife right on him or something? I don't know. I mean, yeah, it looked like they had a knife hanging from a chandelier and they were going to pull some switch or something and it would just drop the knife, hopefully keeping it upright as it hits his chest. You know, it would kind of be anticlimactic climactic to have it just bounce off, but...
I imagine they have to sit there all day trying to get it to just keep bouncing off. Dang it. But yeah, they start a revolt and then there's just a bloodbath for the next 5-10 minutes of this serial. Where they just gun each other down. Like, pew, pew.
Leela kills, I think, 3 more people.
2 in this episode and 1 in the next one.
Okay. I think I had 3 on mine, but, you know, I was completely tuned out for most of this.
So was I. This is one of the least accurate death counts we've had so far.
Well, to be fair, this entire scene is just completely boring because it's about 3 or 4 minutes of no plot, no dialogue, and people just getting killed. Not that the actual parts of this serial with plot and dialogue are much better.
Right, so they're currently torturing Henrik for information about why they're there, and they don't believe that he's lived for 10,000 years, and they don't believe that he's there for the race banks. They're like, yeah, these race banks don't exist.
So I guess they just forgot their entire history?
Or... I think it's supposed to be implied that the seers are denying their history because they served the Oracle, and the Oracle's entire purpose was to guard the race banks.
Still doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. Then the seers are like, wait, we have to consider what's more important. These cylinders that we don't know about, or our entire civilization.
How did the Oracle forget about this? Isn't the Oracle the ship's computer?
No, the Oracle knows about it, but the seers are like, yeah, it's probably not important. Plus, the Oracle will know what these cylinders are.
I guess the Oracle has gone rogue, as they explain later.
It's only the, 10th rogue computer we've had so far, including Votan, Boss, and Zoanon.
Boss was the best, not gonna lie.
Yeah, he was.
If only for his design.
He had the most menacing voice, too, out of all of them. Which might be why he was better. Anyway, the Doctor and Leela are still running around with Idis looking for the cylinder race bank things, and they hide in a minecart.
And they get pushed by some workers? Frogs?
They're pushing, I guess, mining equipment / rocks that they're mining. I don't know what they're mining, because there's probably nothing in these asteroids. I guess
maybe it's just a mechanism to keep them...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Under pressure? No.
Under pressure.
Under the Overseer's controls.
Well, whatever it is, they're doing it. So they...
This scene was also, I thought, really vague, because there was that one cart in front of them that looked like the miner just pushed it off a cliff. Yeah. I guess it was some sort of shaft where they deposit whatever they're mining, the rocks. Was that what it was supposed to be?
Yeah, I guess they tilt the cart sideways and all the rocks / whatever's inside goes down this collection shaft of some sort.
All right, I guess it does make sense.
And that's how the end of episode 3 is... That's how it is. They push the Doctor and Leela down the collection chute, and episode 4 begins with them grabbing, with the revolt coming through the corridor and grabbing the Doctor and Leela and saving them. Then the
Is
Oracle,
that what happened? I was...
Something like that. And the Oracle's like, here, these are the race banks. You can totally trust me. I'm an all-seeing computer.
And she gives them to Henrik, right? Herrick?
Yeah, Herrick.
Herrick,
whatever.
And
he's like, cool, thanks, we're gonna leave now. So he goes to find Jax. He's like, yo, I got the race banks. And Jax is like, sweet, let's go.
Actually, they're not that nonchalant about it, because Herrick is pretty much in a daze. He's like, the quest is over. The quest is over. We actually never mentioned how they say the quest is the quest, even though it ties into our intro. Well, that's what they do. Apparently, they call the quest for the race banks the quest, which makes sense. One of the only things that does make sense in this serial. And
also their only purpose in life, literally the only purpose in life for that crew.
Yeah. So now that they found them, Herrick is in a daze, and Jackson is like, whoa, man. It's heavy.
That's heavy, Doc. There's that word again. Heavy. Is there a problem with this gravitational pull in the future? Back to the Future. So the Doctor doesn't believe that they're the race banks correctly because they need to extend the serial for another 13 minutes. And Herrick takes it to the ship, and they're like, all right, K9, get us out of here. And K9's like, negative?
Crew incomplete. Something like that.
Yeah. They're like, what? And it's still missing the Doctor and Mistress? So they're like, well, fine then.
Well, they decide to actually go ahead with the launch.
Yeah, they decided to prep for launch anyway. So the Doctor's with Idis and Leela, and they make it to the ship, the P7E that is, not the R1C. And they're like, so, Oracle, what's up, yo? And the Oracle's like, I'm the keeper. And the Doctor's like, I know, my people built you. And she's like, your people? And he's like, yes, the Time Lords. So she's like, okay, whatever, I'm the keeper of the race banks. Like, oh, so you do have them! Ha ha! So he steals them with a crowbar, and they escape.
It looks like he almost... I thought he was going to kill the Oracle by
stabbing it with a crowbar?
Yes, but that... no.
Be the least interesting way to kill off the maniacal computer enemy.
So the guards bust in, and Leela and the Doctor and Idis bust out. Because they have the actual race banks, because what the Oracle actually gave Herrick were 2 fission bombs or something, which would blow up.
Yeah, like with the force of 2,000 megatons each.
Was it supposed to be implied that they were going to blow up like after a set amount of time?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were on a timer, but no one knew how much time they were on. So the Oracle decided just not to tell anyone.
Yeah, I mean, what if no one had shown up? What would the Oracle have done with those 2 bombs? I mean, they were going to explode eventually, like...
Well, I think it was implied that the Oracle made them specifically for Herrick and the crew.
Yeah, but, I mean, did she, like, activate them, or were they just sitting... So. Okay, that, I guess, would make sense, and I'm pretty sure we're just making most of this up here, because they literally don't explain it at all. Either way, the Doctor gets back to the ship and stops the countdown at 1 second.
Yeah, and he's like, K9, what are these? And he's like, those are fishing grenades, Master. And he's like, and he's like, can we defuse them? And K9's like, negative. And the Doctor's like,
So he sort of runs out, and...
he's gonna get rid of them, but then the Seers are like, thank you, Doctor, for bringing these back. And the Doctor's like, no, those are the wrong ones. And they're like, you can do better than that, Doctor. And they like walk away, and he's like, no.
Oh, well, so he kind of just leaves.
Well, he's under... These 2 guards are supposed to kill him, but then Leela shows up with her shield gun and shoots one of them, kills him. The other one dies somehow.
The other one just walks off screen. Did you notice that? She kills one of the guards, and he crumples to the floor, and the rest of the Trogs are there, and they're like... They kind of go over with Leela and whatever, and they're like, thanks. And the other guard just kind of stands there and just...
Oh, I thought he just stood there and just collapsed and just died, and I was like, how did he die? Because I looked away from the screen for a second to write down that the guard was killed by Leela, and then I looked up and the other guy was lying on the floor. Or at least I thought he was lying on the floor.
No, go back and watch that again. He kind of just awkwardly walks off screen. Like, maybe that scene was supposed to play out differently, and the actor's just like, shoot, I missed my cue. Guess I'll just walk out of the shot.
This is only tangentially related, but like earlier when they're torturing Herrick, one of the when they dramatically take off their headpieces to reveal that they're robots.
Yeah, we didn't mention that. They have gold faces and 3 eyes, 3 glowing red eyes.
I guess they've evolved beyond the point of no return, whatever. But anyway, as I was gonna say, the one on the left kind of fumbles with his headpiece for a bit, and he's like, what? Fumbles around with his hand before pulling it off, and I was like, wow, smooth. Anyway, yeah, I guess there was just a lot of minor production errors in this serial. So yeah, they take the fishing grenades, and the Doctor and Leela, they're like, well, we can't save the Seers now, but we can save all these Trogs. Get them on board! The Doctorish thing to do. Save everybody. Except those people who decided to not trust you and not believe you and take the fishing grenades from you.
So, are we crediting them to the doctor, by the way? I mean, probably not, because he didn't really,
It was more the seer's own incompetence that led to their demise than the doctor's intent. Because he was just going to get rid of them and without as many casualties, but oh well.
Well, actually, come to think of it, how would he have gotten rid of them? Because they blow up the entire planet.
I don't know, but I think the doctor's intent was to get rid of them without any casualties.
Maybe
and then the seers intervened and were like, no!
Maybe he planned on having the seers, or trying to convince the seers to come with them. That's the only thing I can sort of justify.
Yeah, that might have been what he was trying to do, but as if they would.
Because, I mean, the fission grenades blow up the entire planet. It's either the ship or the planet. I mean, they could have just actually taken off and then chucked them into, like, deep space, I guess. But probably didn't have time for that. Anyway, this is pure conjecture because they literally don't go into any of this.
Yeah, the seers take the fishing grenades to the Oracle, like, we got the race banks back, and the Oracle's like, phew, just put them in. Because they made the Trogs, I guess, dig for the race banks, as if the Doctor would just drop the race banks somewhere for the Trogs to dig up. And she's like, wait, these aren't the race banks, these are fishing grenades. And the seer's like, can we disarm them? And she's like, no, discard them.
So yeah, the whole planet blows up. But before that, the Doctor has gotten all the Trogs onto the ship, and he's having a little argument with Jackson because Jackson says the ship will never fly with this much added weight, and the Doctor says we don't have a choice. Try and do it anyway. And I mean, I don't know. The Doctor usually tries to save as many people as he can, but here it kind of seems like he was just hell bent on either saving everyone or having everyone die. I mean, it's never really explained the ship takes off without a hitch, but...
Well, they start falling back to the planet because they don't have enough thrust.
They chuck some people out and they're good. No, don't do that.
Start airlocking people until they can escape the gravitational... No, they don't do that.
Grim.
No, they don't. They don't do that. Yeah, the Doctor's just bent on saving everyone, I guess. I suppose he refuses to consider the other option, which is everybody dies.
No, I think he considers it and just goes along with his harebrained plan anyway, that add hundreds of pounds to the ship and hope it still flies, even when it was explained to be pretty much on the fritz at the beginning.
Well, I mean, it's what the Doctor... It's not out of line with his character, so I'm not going to fault them too much.
I guess, but I don't know.
I mean, it's always been in his character to save as many people as possible, and then this serial is like, I'm just going to save everyone. Except the seers. Because they're kind of on their own now. They took my fishing grenades.
So it ends with Jackson, I think.
Well, we should explain that they escape because the planet blows up and the explosion propels them out of the wormhole. That's how they escape, because they don't have enough fuel to escape the gravitational pull of the planet. That's the only time the extra weight would ever matter, by the way. The only thing it would change in space is how fast they could move. Which, given their propulsion system seems to go at the speed of light, I don't think it matters.
Still, they made a big deal about it.
Yeah, well, all the science in this serial doesn't really check out. It's my verdict.
Well, they make their escape, and Jackson asks the Doctor and Leela and K9 to stay. But
as
obviously
usual,
they don't.
Like, nope.
They have better fish to fry.
Yeah, literally. Who would want to stick around with these bland non-personalities?
I guess they're at the end they decided to make their way. Where were they planning on going? Anyway, at the end, I could have sworn the Doctor said, "Oh, you can make your way back to your own planet."
They're going to Minyos 2.
Oh,
that's what they said.
There's a Minyos 2. Why didn't they just go there?
I think because no one's there and they need to restart the race there. I think they declared it Minyos 2 as the backup planet for their race, but the race banks never made it there, so they had to go search for them.
Instead, they made it to the end of the universe. Great.
Yeah, Minyos 2 is only 370 years away.
That's nothing, as Herrick
It's nothing
states.
For the 10,000 years they've already spent.
100,000 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Doctor and everyone else heads back into the TARDIS. Not everyone else, Leela and K9.
Yeah, and then they decide to make the allegory that they're going for the serial blatantly obvious by outright stating it in the final 5 minutes of the serial. About Jason and his search for the Golden Fleece. I guess the Doctor calls Jackson Jason. Then he explains the story to Leela. It's like, wow, you could have not explained that and it would have been better because that way we could have figured it out on our own.
Yeah, and then it just awkwardly ends right there.
Yeah. And I'm just putting on his painting garb again. Guess he considers himself a modern-day Picasso. Whatever that means, because he's in a time machine.
Well, I mean, the awkward ending here was pretty fitting for a really awkwardly told serial.
Well, I guess we should discuss that now. I think the plot and concept was really good, but I think where the serial fell apart was the execution. I think all the dialogue was just bland. None of the serial-specific characters had any noticeable personality differences, except for maybe Herrick.
No, not even him. He was kind of just a one-note character.
And then they just did a really poor job of tying in all that. It looked like they were going for some cool mythos and revelations about the Time Lords, kind of, subtly in there, but then they kind of didn't really follow through with it at all.
Nope. Well, thing is, the backstory that was explained in episode 1 and I guess slightly in the other episodes was pretty interesting, but the rest of the serial just involved them running around trying not to get killed.
Yeah, it's like they took a 2-episode serial and expanded it to 4. It's like what would have happened if they expanded Sontaran Experiment to 4 episodes. You would have had a good premise with a really boring execution. It's a pity, because I think there's a really good serial buried under all of this muck and disaster. I think probably not a major part of it, but I guess the whole we didn't plan for the budget for this might have played into that. Maybe they could have made more interesting sets or more interesting locations if they had maybe accounted better for what they were working with and what they were going to be working with by the time they got to this part of the production block, I guess. But even still, I wouldn't say fantastic sets or special effects could hold my interest when paired with this story. No, not really. It's just a pity that the serial was so boring. Definitely, I think one of the least interesting and probably one of the worst Fourth Doctor serials, but I don't think it's one of the worst overall by far.
I do. I'd put it up with Space Pirates, Fury.
Yeah, but see, those didn't have really interesting premises, or they did, and they decided to Deus Ex Machina away with victorious screams. This one had an interesting premise that they didn't utilize at all, except for 10 minutes in episode 1. I would consider this better than Robot. It's I can't find anything interesting to say about Robot right now, except that it was the fourth Doctor.
Brig.
Yeah, the Brig can't save a bad serial.
Are you sure about that?
How much we love the Brig, the Brig can't save a bad serial.
As far as you know.
As far as we know.
What if the Brig was in this? Probably would have been that much better.
No, probably not.
No, probably not. So,
maybe some of why it's so bland can be chalked up to, I guess it's Anthony Reed's first time flying solo. I guess these past 3 weeks have been just mentioning that, but since last week was actually written by Robert Holmes, I guess this week is the first time Anthony Reed's been on his own, so to speak. And maybe he's still trying to work out his trademark info dump. Supposed trademark info dump, I guess, because we haven't confirmed that yet. And everyone knows if we haven't confirmed it, it's not legitimate.
Right. I guess if we are looking for an info dump in this serial, it would be in episode 1, which is probably the worst place to put an info dump in a 4-episode serial, if you have one.
Yeah. Unless you're info dumping previous history, not info dumping the future plot of the serial, which is kind of what happened here, where you info dumped, we've been searching for 100,000 years. Oh yeah, we're looking for the race banks. And oh yeah, they probably went in this wormhole. And oh yeah, they were on a ship called the P-70, which was manned by other minions.
Yeah, I mean, the serial probably would have been a lot more enjoyable had they spread a little bit of that out.
Yeah, but at least we got Leela and the Doctor and K9 being witty to each other, which was the only enjoyable part of this serial, and that's just sad, I guess.
Yep.
Next week, we get to watch Anthony Reid script edit a 6-episode serial. I think the final 6-episode serial, maybe?
Is either the last or the second to last?
Except for maybe there's the one unaired one. But I don't remember if that's next season's finale or the season after. It's okay, we can just look it up. Is the Armageddon Factor a 6-episode serial? That's the question.
Yes, it is.
So we've got 2 more 6-episode serials.
And then we're home free.
Well, then there's the unaired one, which I guess we haven't decided if we're going to watch or not yet.
And then there's Trial of a Time Lord, which I've been trying to convince Dylan to watch all in 1 week.
It's not happening. Not doing 14 episodes in 1 week. We split up Dalek Invasion of Earth at 12. We split up the invasion at 10. No, we split the invasion at 8. The War Games was 10 and we split that. So yeah. No, we're not.
That means nothing.
We're not doing Trial of a Time Lord in 1 week. Then again, we're like a year out from that, so maybe that'll change in the next year. But I guess that's the end of Underworld.
Thankfully.
Hang on, what was the title referencing?
I don't know, maybe they were getting deeper into the core of the planet or something like that. I don't know.
What?
Maybe they were exposing the dark underworld of Trog society. No, I don't know.
The seedy underbelly of cave life.
Well, like most of the things in this serial, was probably just slapped on haphazardly.
Well,
actually, a lot of things in this serial did feel like they could have been slightly thought out, but not to the extent that they made any sense. But whatever.
Yeah, it's just a pity, I guess, is my final verdict on it. Email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, anger, rants, love letters. Your total and utter rewrites of Underworld that make them 1,000,000 times better. Check us out on YouTube, Trust Your Doctor. Check us out on iTunes at Trust Your Doctor. Leave a rating if you liked the show. It helps other people find the show. I'd like to say thank you to all the loyal fans who still listen to us ramble every week and attempt to put together coherent and intelligent analyses of these serials. But also, be sure to check out the website, decorative.com. Find out other podcasts, Triple Play.
Check us out on Facebook at Trust Your Doctor. Also, like us on Facebook, check us out on Twitter, TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next week, we finish up Season 15 with The Invasion of Time. But until then, the end.